I really wanted you to be in the book because you have such a unique style and it's so fresh and it's so different from everyone.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, well, you already hear that all the time, but yes.
And thank you for including me. I really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, really. I think you were in the, your book should be coming if you didn't get it yet, but you're in the wire chapter. But actually, I love, when Christine and I went through it all, we were like, oh my gosh, it could be scrap metal that you were in, it could be wire that you're in. So you are not traditionally trained, you're self-taught, right?
100%. Yep.
Wow. Okay. So how did you get started? How did you think about doing jewelry?
We built our house in 2009, and in the construction process, I collected river rocks and turned them into all of our cabinet knobs around the house. And when that project was complete, I would drill holes through the cabinet knob or through the rocks, and then I had wine corks on the back, and so they ended up being these really beautiful knobs. But when that project was complete, I was kind of addicted to working with stones. So I went to smaller stones and drilled holes through those and started to wire wrap. So this was in 2009. And then by 2011, I purchased my first torch and then just continued to work with wire wrapping jewelry. And then, yeah, it just took off from there.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And you're in Colorado, right?
Nope, Washington State.
You're in Washington State. So do you have, so you love foliage, and do you have that year round over there?
We are snowbound for a good portion of for the winter, but.
You are, where are you? Oh, so you must be all the way up north.
We are about 60 miles from Canada as the crow flies.
Wow.
Yeah, we're way up in the North Cascade Mountains.
So, so it looks like have you always been, so tell me about all your nature stuff. You always loved being out in nature? Is this something new? Are you guys in the middle of nowhere?
We kind of are in the middle of nowhere. We're in a place called the Methow Valley, and it's considered something like the American Alps. And we moved here in 2007, but I grew up in Switzerland and in France, and I grew up in the mountains, skiing, hiking, and have always had a love of nature.
I see. Oh, how interesting.
Yep. Oh. And then my husband and I met in the Peace Corps in West Africa, where it really hit home the living off the land, being outside, sleeping outside, being outside 100% of the time. So that even more so, cinched it for us.
Oh, and that actually such influences your work. Now, you don't have any kind of an accent at all.
No, I'm American.
Yeah, you sound American. Yeah. You have an American accent. Yeah. So, but that's pretty cool. So yeah, that makes sense with your work. It's like, when I'm teaching, I can see students in my classroom, like I could almost predict or guess what their background is or where they've come from, So this makes a lot of sense for you. The Peace Corps, how cool is that? So what country did you spend a lot of time in with the Peace Corps?
With the Peace Corps, we were in Niger in West Africa.
Okay.
It was back then, I don't know about now, it was the 4th poorest country in the world. So it was a hardship post in the Peace Corps. But man, it changed our lives.
Wow. And did you see, some of the most impressive work? What I love in the background is, like in countries, I don't even know if they had jewelry work there, but I love the way people get at making their jewelry when they don't have everything perfectly lined up. It's so fascinating, to see. Did you get to see things like that? Crafts were done.
In Niger, there's a place called the Musée d'Orsay or something like that. I can't remember what the museum is called, but there they have a whole bunch of silversmiths, and they're all sitting in dirt and they're all hammering and texturing, and it's mostly their Tuareg crosses that they had. But no, I really didn't see too much of it. Lots of painting of gourds for water.
Okay. Okay, interesting. Yeah, so that's fascinating. Well, you know what? I have found that anyone well, oh my gosh, this is going to be a hard statement to say, but someone who has come up with a really interesting look in their work and stands out really is self-taught, you know, and you see that throughout history in art, in jewelry. I mean, specifically, it's so interesting because everyone I realized that is included in the book is came up with their own look, you know. So and you teach workshops. Looks like you teach there too, right?
This is my studio, and yeah, I teach about 8 week-long workshops per year here.
Ah, you teach 8, and then what, do you have places for people to stay in the area?
Lots. Yep. They stay
Okay.
here. It's generally a 5-day intensive, and then I travel to teach as well.
Oh, good. Okay, well, I like that. We'll make sure that we get all that information down, you know, before we leave. Yeah, not that you probably have it filled up, right? And booked.
For 2022, yes.
Okay, cool. That's cool. Oh my gosh. Well, anything that, you know, I could do to support you. So actually, I want to know, what are your favorite shapes and pieces that you're working on right now? Or, you know, through this body of work, like what is like I see you go through florals and into like just different sea urchin shapes, and you know, do you do those in series, or do you just kind of wake up and say, hey, this is what I want to work on today?
That's a good question. I think that probably right now about 50 to 60% of my work is custom. So a lot of, and that's based on pieces that I've made that I've released in the past, or people realizing you can just do about anything botanical, and this is my favorite botanical or my mother's favorite botanical. So I wake up and do a lot of custom orders, but oftentimes I'll set the custom orders aside because I just have to do my own, I have to have my own creative outlet. So that's usually born from either a partnership that I might have with another artist. So right now I'm working with a woman who grows her own grass fiber. So for instance, this is what she's doing out of grass, and it's really spectacular. So we are creating oceans inspired pieces and this is going to be a fundraiser for ocean awareness.
Oh,
So there's that. That might happen, or you know, I might go out for a hike and see a particular wildflower, and I have never made that before, and so I come back to my studio feeling like, oh my God, I've got to create this thing.
yes, really cool. Okay, I like that. So very
So it's more of that. It's more just, yeah, whatever I wake up dreaming about. Sometimes I have to just, you know, how you probably feel this way too. You have to rush to your studio and just get it out.
Yes. Yeah. And hope to get other things out of the way. Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So that's really cool. I love, you know, because originally Intentional Metalsmithing is a creative program to really help artists grow. And, you know, it's like when I used to teach, I would find there's people that, yes, in the classroom, it's good to do the teacher's exact work, but, you know, it really is helping. I'm thinking, you know, I really want this to be able to help people think of what did they love? What did they want to rush into their studio and build, you know?
Yeah.
So your statements that you're saying, I feel like is so important for aspiring artists and aspiring silversmiths to hear. It's like, yes, you can have a whole lineup of orders to fill, but you make sure that your creativity and that your soul is filled.
Absolutely. You have to have your own outlet. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. There are some days where I feel like I'm hitting a wall a little bit, and I have a huge stash of natural stones, rocks, not anything like any gemstones, but just rocks that I collect from all over the world. And so sometimes when I hit a wall, I just go and I pour out a huge jar of rocks and I just sift through them. And then if I find any one particular rock that speaks to me, I'll work with that. And then all of a sudden the cobwebs are gone and my creativity is unleashed and I can move on.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
That was a really good tip. Yeah. So, and you're probably always adding to your jar too, whenever you travel.
Always,
Oh,
aren't you?
good. Oh my gosh, I love that. And you really look close at all the little details because I see all that in your work.
Absolutely.
So, okay. So then what does your, what does your work day look like? You make everything yourself, right?
Yep.
Or do you have an assistant?
Nope. I don't have an assistant. Nope. Everything down to the jump rings. Yes.
Okay, so what does your work day look like? Or your, say, if you took a week, like how often are you in the studio? You know, I think a lot of people like to know just how does an artist who's a working artist, like how do you work your day and your week and your month and your
Right.
family time?
Right.
Like that's important.
I think of it as kind of like always trying to find and maintain balance. Excuse me, I'm warm. So for me, balance includes exercise. So I often will bike to work, to my studio, because, you know, then I can get my exercise out of the way. I'll come in and I'll sift through my custom orders that are all in order of payment received. And I'll just, you know, start tackling either that, or I'll have to come in and do some sort of creative myself process. But I usually work at least 5 full days per week, meaning I get to the studio around 8 in the morning and I'll often leave between 5 and 6 p.m.
Wow. Okay. That's long days. Yeah.
Days, long days, which is why I need to bike to and from the studio. And my daughter's off at college now, so I'm probably working even more than I was before, now that I'm not being a mother as much as I was before. And then, you know, I travel to teach, so there's that in between. So I'm traveling starting tomorrow. I'm traveling to teach in Wisconsin, which means I needed to take a day off in the middle of the week. You know, there's that. You have to shuffle around and just find your own time to breathe.
Yes, 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 yeah. Hey, wasn't your daughter helping you for a little bit with photography and social media?
She still does quite a bit. Yeah. When
Nice.
she's here, she helps me with a lot of my online tutorials that are available to purchase.
Okay.
She does some of my reels, she helps me with some of that. Yes, she's a gem.
Nice. Oh my gosh. Isn't that great to birth your own helper? She knows your brain well, right?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Well,
Yeah.
good. It's probably hard with her being gone. Although then you can dive in and be you, right?
Yes, it is hard to have her gone. Yes. And admittedly, I for the first probably 6 weeks that she was gone, I checked her location on our phone almost daily.
Yeah, we try not to tell our kids that, right? Oh my gosh, I love that though. Does she want to be an artist, do you think?
She wants to be behind the camera, and she's studying film.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, don't you feel good that you have influenced her?
I feel great about where she's going with her life. Yes.
Oh, fabulous. Oh my gosh, that makes me so happy. It's like, I love kids. I've had households of kids when I have my kids at home, you know, so it's to see them grow. Okay, so so that's what you do a lot of forging with your wire, you do a lot of different skills. And like you said, you have a lot of online courses that people can take to learn. And what type of a tip would you give? What type of a tip as an instructor, or actually, I'm going to ask you two. One is an instructor, but one really, what type of a tip could you give people to help grow into their own work?
Right. One of the things so this happened to me, and this is what I often tell people my story, but when I decided to go full-time I went full-time as an artist because we lost our house in a wildfire in 2014. And after that, my husband said, okay, let's just shrink our lifestyle so that we can financially support you finally becoming an artist. But so for a year, from 2014 to 2015, I went into debt and could not figure out how to separate myself from the masses in social media.
Okay.
So literally what I did, because I was creating, I was sawing out wolves and the coyotes and the deer and putting them with my stones and the mountain scenes and doing this with my pictures, my rings. And there's a lot of that out there, not saying that it's not a good, beautiful thing. It's just that there's a lot in order to compete. So what I did was I shut down all of my social media and basically just had to think really hard about, okay, what is it that's not being done out there that I don't see a lot of out there? And that's when I just started to work really hard on trying to find my own voice as an artist. So when I teach my workshops, students don't come in and make a specific thing. I tell them, I don't give them any specific assignments. They can repeat my demos verbatim, or what I prefer is that they take the technique that I'm teaching and then make something totally from their own hearts and guts. So that's what I suggest, because yeah, there are a lot of us out there.
I love that. Okay. And that's when you actually, so you're saying when you decide to shut things down, you really thought about what is your passion? What do you love to build? What direction do you want to go? Which takes a lot of bravery, and it takes a lot of looking at yourself, right?
Absolutely.
So how long of a period of time was that? Because you're like looking at yourself and digging deep, it sounds like.
Right.
To come up with
Well,
work.
so it took me a good few months to finally pull myself out of my own self-pity, because I was really feeling sorry for myself. And
So when you shut down, you felt sorry for yourself.
yeah, and I felt very frustrated that I couldn't come up with something that would take off on the internet. So it was on a trail run one day that I realized, oh my gosh, I see all these people casting plants, and but I've never really seen people hand fabricate, like not just flowers, but truly every single kind of piece, anything you can find in nature. So I set a self-challenge for myself to dissect literally 30 plants. So I would literally peel them apart, recreate those components in silver, and learn how to solder them all back together to create what it was that I dissected. And man, I learned through, talk about F-bombs, I learned so much about soldering and heat sinks and, heating the mass. And man, I learned so much trial by fire. And then it just took off.
Really cool. Yes. And that's like that makes sense. It's like when you stop your life and take a look at yourself and really try to, it's like and it takes bravery. It's like a lot of people won't do that, but it's like, man, if people can, if somebody will put themselves out there, like you could really find out a lot about yourself and your work.
Yeah.
So that's friggin' amazing. That's exactly what it takes, I feel like, to be successful. And here you are, so really cool. So
Yeah.
I can see why. So when people come into your studio, you let them know, hey, find something that you love.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And of course, I'm sure you understand this as well, but you have to put it out there that I'm teaching you all of my trade secrets. I'm teaching you everything that I've taught myself. But this is my livelihood, and I don't want you, my student, to be my competition.
Right.
So try to find, with
Right.
the techniques I'm teaching you, try to find your artistic voice.
Right. Yes, that's great. And you know what? It's way more fun anyway.
Yes.
It's like if someone is using another person's ideas, you get bored of it because it's not who you are. So you're not going to continue down that path anyway.
Exactly.
So yeah, so absolutely. So you can tell the passionate people, they're in it forever.
Yeah.
It's like there's people who have been in jewelry or in sculpture or in metals forever because you're happy, you love it, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I love that. I didn't know that about you. So
Yeah.
I just look at your work and love it, and I hear some of your talks, and I used to be able to pick up on a lot more of them, but always loving it. So what would you get? So that's a really good tip for people to know, because you're giving them a social media tip. You're giving them like a marketing. What was your background? Were you in marketing?
Kind of. I was managing nonprofits, so very much a strategic brain. And so that, of course, means budget management, staff management, self-management, project management, marketing, fundraising, all of that. So yes. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, I like it. I love marketing myself. It's like, it's so much fun and it's an art form in itself, you know?
It is. Yeah, and you do a beautiful job with that.
Oh, thank you. And there's Christina in the background too, who's my right-hand man. So yeah, see her little face? She actually shuts up. She's the behind the scenes kind of girl. You know what I mean? So yeah, so we'll see. So, oh my gosh. Okay. So you are, okay. So I like that about your day. I like that about your tips. Is there anything else that you want to add about your work that you want to tell people? I mean, I'm excited. Actually, I'm very tempted to come out there and take one of your classes. It seems like it's so fresh, you know, it's like, I don't like to learn necessarily techniques, although from, I mean, a project, but from a project, you could learn interesting things, but it's your class. It's like you're going out there and it's like checking out of your old work, getting into a refresh and walking out and your body has shifted.
That's the idea.
Yeah, that's what your workshops are about. Yeah.
My workshops are about breaking down boundaries and understanding that there are so many more ways to attack one particular project than you can even fathom.
Cool, good. Okay, so do you have any goals coming up for you? Do you have any goals? Do you have any happenings coming up for you? You know, something you're interested in or something you're working towards that we don't know about yet? Projects with different artists or whatever.
So yes, I have that one project that I'm working on. I think another big project is that my daughter, I hired my daughter this summer to do a lot of photography, to create a book as well. So I'm in the middle of writing a book about how to unlearn silversmithing. So everything that we've been talking about, just breaking down everything that you might have learned previously, and then starting from scratch, literally scratch, ring, scraps, just teaching people how you can incorporate all of the silver, including your scraps. And so it doesn't matter how many times you F up.
I love that. That's going to be beautiful. You're doing it this summer. You've already started working on it.
I started working on it, and I plan on taking the month of November to work on that fully. So we'll see. We'll see.
Nice.
Who knows?
I love that.
That's kind of my goal right now.
Good. I like that. Always good to have. It's you know, it's like a time of enlightenment as far as creativity and artists. So I love that. Good for you.
Yeah, well, good for you. Thank you.
It was a lot of work. Oh my God. I'm just like thinking, I'm glad mine's behind me. You know, it's like, because when you write a book, well, my first book that I wrote, Making Connections, I'm rewriting and reorganizing it because I loved it. It's like I walked around picking up cold joints, but it's like by the time I finished that book, it was like a psychology healing, an internal, because you, along with all the techniques and stuff, you pull everything else up and out.
Yeah.
Right. So it'll be fun. I can't wait. Oh my gosh. And I'm so grateful again. Like I wanted to tell you is that, you know, this book is really, and this whole process is to really try to help people get into their own creative process and figure out their own way, you know, so you have such a strong voice here. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I hope to see you soon. Really was such a treat for me.
Thank you.
Mwah.